Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome to the last 10 games, or the final 10 games, or the top 10 games on the Board Game Geek, which is the largest website in the world about board games, top 100 rated games. And this is as of February 2020. The last time I did one of these videos, it was in January 2018, so we're comparing basically a 2-year difference. There are 4 games on the list that were not on the list when I last did this. 3 of them are brand new, 1 moved up, and we're going to talk about that one first. That is Great Western Trail. It was number 11, now it's number 10. This game, designed by Alexander Pfister, is his most popular game. I'd be very curious to see if his Maracaibo game that came out in 2019 will surpass it. I don't know, because one of the things I like about Great Western Trail, is the motif of it. It just looks really good. It's about wrangling cattle, and you can see here, there's not many games with this theme in them. It's basically a giant rondel. You're moving around, mixed with a little bit of a deck builder, and this one's extremely popular. I like it well enough, not as much as everybody else does, I guess, but I think it's a pretty good game, and I know that this one just has a lot of people really enjoying it. All right, number 9 is new to the list. This one came on by virtue of it being basically a 2.0 version of the original game, and that's Gaia Project. The first one being Terra Mystica. Terra Mystica was a fantasy-themed game. Gaia Project is a space-themed game. I'm not a huge fan of Terra Mystica, but for some reason, Gaia Project felt a little bit better. The way you expand it was better. It still had that funky, weird magic system, although in this one it's not magic, it's something else. There's a lot of pieces. There is a lot going on in this game. It is a fairly large, big, giant game going on, and I really think that if you like Terra Mystica, you'll like Gaia Project and so forth, and I wonder if Terra Mystica will drop off, although I found that diehard Terra Mystica fans are not necessarily going to love Gaia Project more, but it is number 9. Number 8 is Star Wars Rebellion. Now this game, which is essentially Star Wars in a box, it is the whole, episodes 4, 5, and 6. The bad guys are flying Death Stars around, blowing up planets. The good guys are flying X-Wings and hiding their base. It's kind of a deduction game and also a dudes on a map where you have all these people fighting each other. Really cool miniatures involved in the game. And I think a lot of this has to do if people like War of the Ring. This feels like a successor to that to some degree. There's a lot of similarities in it. It's not just move stuff around and blow things up, but it's, try to figure it out. You have the different main characters going around and accomplishing a mission. And, of course, the fact that it is Star Wars and miniatures doesn't help. It's the highest rated Star Wars game that's out there. And obviously from these pictures, a lot of people like painting the miniatures. I like it because of the theme, and it's just a really strong 2-player game. Speaking of really strong 2-player games, Star Wars Rebellion was 6, now it's 8. This next one was 4, now it's 7, and at one point this was another one of our number 1 games, and that's Twilight Struggle. Twilight Struggle is the Cold War in a box. This is essentially you playing through right directly after World War II and all the way up to the fall of communism, and you have the USSR versus the USA and trying to fight all over the world in various ways. It looks like a war game. In fact, it's from GMT Games, who have made many different war games. And I guess it is a war game. It's the Cold War. But there's a lot of different aspects going on, a very strong historical background to it. This is an extremely high-rated game, and one of the reasons it's high on Board Game Geek also is because if you don't like this game, you're never going to even attempt it, probably, which is why it's rated so highly. And that's the way a lot of these top 10 games are. If you're not a fan of them, you weren't going to play them in the first place. Twilight Struggle is number 7. Twilight Imperium 4 is number 6. This was not on the list last year, but Twilight Imperium 3 was on the list last time I did this. Twilight Imperium 3 is going down because this is the natural replacement. As I said when I talked about Twilight Imperium 3, this particular game feels like a Twilight Imperium 3.5. It feels like there are differences, but they're not dramatically strong. It's a big space epic game. This game has fans who love it. I know some people who play this game on a weekly or monthly basis. Whenever I'm at a convention, there is almost invariably a game of this going on somewhere. And when you look at these pictures, it looks epic and huge. And the good thing is the game feels epic and huge. So, I don't know. Will this remain in the top 10 at the next time I put this together? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Number 5 is also new to the list. It's the last new one in the top 10. Although it's in here by virtue of its older brother, and that's Brass Birmingham. We already mentioned Brass Lancashire, which was a reworking of Brass from Martin Wallace. Brass Birmingham was a modification of that, like almost like 1.5. They're different games, but they're really similar at the same time. And I have found that most people that I've talked to like Birmingham better. Again, the new production is fantastic. This is a game that feels like more work to me than it does like fun, but obviously it's ranked number 5, so I'm in the minority on that one. There's a lot, again, it looks really cool, but if you like the idea of using trains and canals to move around resources and score points in various ways, a lot of cool ideas, and it is a very well-designed game. But apparently there's 4 better ones. Number 4, once again, this was number 3 last year, so it just dropped by 1 position. Once again, we're talking about a sequel to a game. These games always tend to do better, and that's Through the Ages, a new story of civilization. The original Through the Ages was on this list. Honestly, there's not a lot of difference between the 2 games other than there's some minor rule changes, and this one, of course, has way better components. In Through the Ages, you are collecting cards of sorts. This is about the closest you can get to Sid Meier's Civilization as a card game. I won't even say board game. It's more of a card game. The thing is, though, a lot of this stuff is very abstracted out. So, you see Theocracy there. It doesn't really feel like Theocracy. It just does a lot of different things. You can see it provides you with cubes. You have Bill Gates. The characters that are in this game are probably the strongest theming. And there's also, while there's fighting in this game, there's no, territorial control. But it doesn't matter. The game is just that good. There's a great app integration of this if you've never played it. I don't normally play board games on the apps, but I really enjoy the Through the Ages one because it handles a lot of the bookkeeping for you. Still very, very popular. Number 3 was number 5 last time, and this one is the most popular Euro game out there as virtue of number 3, and that's Terraforming Mars. Terraforming Mars just kind of came out and just blew everybody away. This is one of those games that still gets played, and as opposed to many of the other games in the top 10. So if you were coming to me and you said to me, I've never played a game in the top 10, which one should I start with? I'd be like, oh, I don't know. Great Western Trail's kind of heavy. Gaia Project's heavy. Twilight Struggle, Twilight Imperium. This would be the one. If you hadn't played one before, this would be the best one because even though there's still a lot going on in it, for sure, it is one of the easier ones to get into. It's an engine building game. There's tons of different cards in the deck. You're trying to play them out here and terraform Mars, raise the temperature, raise the oxygen levels. Every game of this I play feels completely different than the last one, and I love this game, and so do obviously many other people. Number 2 was number 1 for a long time, although it was number 2 last time we talked about this, and that's Pandemic Legacy, Season 1. Now, I'm curious to see how this one holds up over time because it is a one-time experience. This is Pandemic, but you're playing through a series of games, which could be 12 games, which will never happen, no one's that good, to 24 games, probably somewhere around 15, 16, 17 games. And you play through, and there's an extremely strong storyline. This is the game that showed that Legacy could add, oh, look at that, could add fun things, and you could rip up a game component and be okay with it. It took Pandemic and did all sorts of neat things with it. Look at all these people having fun here, and all sorts of things, and I'm spoiling this. So hopefully you've played it already. And then finally, number 1, Gloomhaven. It was number 1 last time. Gloomhaven is a fantastic, fun, terrific game, a dungeon crawl, a puzzle game. Everybody who plays it seems to like it. It should not work. This is one of those games that exceeds expectations in a sense. When you see Gloomhaven, you see the complicated kind of rule set, you see the gazillion pieces, you see the size of the box. This should not have been a success on so many levels, and yet it is. Interesting, unique storylines, really good, solid gameplay that even if you don't like dungeon crawls, you might like it, and tons and tons and tons and tons of replayability. Make this #1. So that is the top 10 games on Board Game Geek. I guess I should show you a little bit of Gloomhaven here. Here's a couple pictures of some of the characters. I feel bad that I didn't show there. There's some of the terrain pieces. There's the designer of it, and a young child watching him, hoping someday he can design the next #1 board game. All right, anyhow, let's jump back here. I'm going to be doing one more video talking about the games that fell off the top 100. There's quite a few of them, actually, and just where they are now. And so after that, we'll be done. Thank you for all you who are watching. I'm Tom Vasel. We've been going through the top 100 games on Board Game Geek here on the Dice Tower. See you next time.